Welcome back to Ferris Sports Update. Time to talk women's basketball. And with us is head coach Kurt Westendorp. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, here now as we start the second semester, your team already well into the conference season. Here with a couple weeks behind you, maybe talk about what you've learned from your team so far here early on.
Well, it's just been really nice to get on the court and competing. You know, there's one thing with kind of learning your team in practices and seeing what you might have and actually being on the court and seeing just what are we good at, what are the matchups with our opponents, different things, different places that I can put players on the court where they can have their talent really shine. And I think we've gotten so much better over the course of these first 4 games.
What's it been like for you, obviously coming back to Ferris State and leading the Bulldog program here after being gone for 7 or 8 years? What's it been like being back at Ferris State?
It's been awesome. So I've had a really good little text string going with that 2011-12 team right before we played Ashland, because when we played at Ashland, that was the finish of our season in the NCAA tournament. So it was kind of full circle to start up there again, and just kind of texted that entire team and all the words of encouragement that they were able to send to me and that I was able to then pass along to the current team. You know, we talked about Bulldog pride as something that, you know, you take every time you put that jersey on. So it's something that we're really trying to pass on to these girls right here, and so they can feel it from those future generations.
You mentioned Ashland, obviously a tough way to start your tenure here at Ferris State, taking on the number 2 team in the country, but obviously your team went out and competed well that first weekend.
Yeah, I really felt like we had to learn. That opening game, I think that we knew like what they were going to do. We knew the scouting report, but we didn't know exactly what it meant until we got kind of punched in the face a little bit. So I thought from game 1 to game 2, you saw like a whole completely different team on the court. You know, I think we executed a ton better. You know, Ashland has always been a great offensive team. They usually put up a lot of points, but I'll give them a ton of credit for their defense. It was something that was a notch up from what we had even seen ourselves do in practice. So we got better from game 1 to game 2, but it was definitely a great measuring stick for our kids to see, like, okay, this is what it's going to take. You know, this is a team that hadn't lost at the time in like 33 games. So it was really good for us to see like what the standard is for that championship level.
You see some of the highlights here. You kicked off your homestand this past weekend against Wisconsin Parkside, and obviously a couple high-scoring games here starting off here on Friday.
Yeah, definitely high-scoring games. That was a little bit, we kind of figured that might be the case when we were looking at the styles that both teams play. You know, kind of styles make fights is the old boxing phrase, and it really is kind of followed through for the basketball right here. You know, they do it, what we do well on offense, they struggle to guard a little bit, and what they do well on offense, we struggled to guard a little bit. So it was one of those games where you just had to keep your foot on the gas. You just had to keep fighting and keep pressing, because you knew that you couldn't go on a big scoring lull. That was, if you went on a scoring lull, the other team was going to pull away.
Obviously, here this past weekend, both games you had the lead at the end of the first quarter, but they had a big second quarter, and then you came back and won the second half in both games.
Yeah, they did a nice job in their second quarter of really, they settled in. We guarded them well at the get-go. Our energy was great. I thought we had a little bit of an energy lull in the second quarter of both games, just especially defensively. We put our heads down a little bit too much, and we kind of forgot what it was that, you know, we were really playing for. That second game, when we came out in the second half, we said that we just wanted to come out and fight. Like, we just needed to fight. We needed to show the pride that we've talked about all the way through. And I would really give our girls a ton of credit, because, you know, they were down 14 come out of the half. It's real easy to put your head down, but we did a great job of fighting and scrapping every possession, and getting a 35-point quarter to start the second half really put us right in that game where we believed that we could win.
86-82 on Friday. You came right back on Saturday, and kind of part of the GLIAC schedule here as we see on the highlights, playing the same team again. What's that been like here for the first couple weeks?
I've actually enjoyed it as a coach. Like, it's been a little different. You get done with game 1, a lot of times you can kind of relax, go home, see the family, and you have a whole completely new opponent that you're already prepared for with 1 day of prep. You know, this is different. You know, you go home, you get dinner, you come back with your assistant coach, and you spend, you know, several hours just poring over, okay, what was there that we didn't see the first time? What adjustments do we have to make? You know, for us, we played almost a completely different style of defense just to try to throw them off of their rhythm. We played a lot more of a matchup zone as opposed to pure man-to-man. You know, offensively, there weren't a whole lot of changes that had to be made, but it's just it's a fun chess match to play as coaches, to kind of have in your back pocket what is next for you, and also at the same time thinking, okay, what do they see from their perspective? What are some things that they might throw at us that they might be able to switch up a little bit? So it's a fun challenge as a coach. coach and I think as a team, it's also a good challenge that, okay, you can get that bad taste of a loss out of your mouth really quickly and really have to show up and be ready to play. Hopefully this weekend we're on the better end of the first game so we can kind of experience that, because both these weekends that we've had so far, we've dropped the first one.
Obviously, here on Saturday, you're down at halftime, but your kids, as you mentioned earlier, really stormed back in the second half and competed, led by Caden Blanchard, who had a fantastic game with 39 points.
Yeah, she really settled in and really played the aggressiveness that we need her to play with. So we tried to open up the floor a little bit more, tried to get her some of those matchups. Parkside's a team that like to switch on all the screens, especially the ball screens. So we were able to take advantage of that at times and try to switch some of their weaker defenders onto her where she was able to get downhill. Late in the game, they had a couple kids that were in foul trouble, so we were able to kind of go at them a little bit, so they backed off. But I thought Caden did a good job. It wasn't every time she touched it, she didn't shoot it every single time. I feel like she had 7 or 8 assists on the game as well. So she was taking the good shots for us. She was getting to the free throw line, which was really big for us to be aggressive. And right there, that's a great pass and transition. Finding Mallory McCartney, that was a huge shot for us, as well as being able to get the ball to the basket and get a lot of easy things for us.
You mentioned Mallory McCartney. What's she meant to the team so far here? Obviously, minus some players that have been out with an injury.
Yeah, I felt like that second half of the second game against Parkside, you started to see her in a little better rhythm. She started playing with a little more bounce in her step, a little bit more pace. I felt like some of the first couple games or first game and a half, she was kind of feeling her way through the offense instead of just trying to take charge. So it's part of the learning process. New coach, new system, new teammates. I feel like she'd had decent games in those first 3, but we saw in that third game, or that fourth game rather, but the second half, when she plays with that kind of rhythm and she just kind of goes and lets the game flow and kind of happen, she's a very dangerous player.
Obviously, this week, as it is in the GLIAC, back and forth, you're on the road this weekend, taking on Northern Michigan, and obviously another good opponent coming up here on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I think they're coming in with a 3-1 record. They played Parkside and they beat them twice, and they split with Saginaw Valley. It's going to be another completely different style of game. They're a little bit bigger in the post. They like to slow the ball down a little bit more. They like to play a little bit more zone defense, or they played Saginaw a lot of junk defense. Not as much traditional man-to-man like we've seen these first couple weekends. So in that way, it's kind of nice that we're on the football schedule, that we kind of have all week to kind of prepare for that completely different style. And we're going to have to be doing our best job in that game to make the game be the way that we want to make it be played, a little more up and down, a little more free-flowing, and not let them kind of grind it to a halt and just play in the half court.
How difficult is this stretch going to be? Obviously going to Northern Michigan, then you come back, you go to Lake Superior on Tuesday, and then back at home to face Michigan Tech next weekend.
So it's a tough stretch, and you're looking at, you got to play 5 games in 8 days. That can put a little bit of a strain on your bodies, but also you have to look at it in the context of playing a COVID season. We're happy and we're blessed and we're grateful that we get to play these games. So having a chance to just get out there and play, you don't want to look at the negatives of it. It's like, no, these are opportunities that we get. So we're just going to really try to take it all in stride.
Well, Coach, thanks for being with us, and best of luck this weekend as you travel to Marquette.
Thanks, Rob.
We'll be back with more Ferris Sports Update right after this.